All right, folks, it is time for our favorite podcast. Yes, cut to the chase. It is the end of the year, so these are like my holiday specials, but unfortunately, this one here is not going to really bring you too much joy, unfortunately. I'd like first to introduce my guests, Brent Wisner. How are you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Greg?
I hope I got the name right. Did I spell
Got it right, 100%. A lot of people say Wisner, but you said Wisner. You got it.
All right, I practiced that all morning. Shareholder in Baum, Hedlund, Aristey, and Goldman, law firm out in San Francisco. For those of you that do not know this gentleman, he's a superstar. He's a legend already. Have you been an attorney for 10 years?
I have about 12 years now.
12 years. I mean, I'm just, I cut to the chase. I try to cut to the chase. Trying to get your bio condensed into, a soundbite is almost impossible. But, this guy is one of the main attorneys on the Roundup cases. So the first three that went to trial, he just kind of came, he was handling cases. The first trial was supposed to go. They wanted it to go. The lead attorney went like parasailing a couple weeks before the trial, almost died, and they needed a pinch hitter. And there was no delaying this first trial, and they brought in you, Brent. And right. you did not hesitate. I mean, you were not like, wow, I don't know this case. I need some time to get ready. You just rolled in.
Chomping at the bit, man.
Chomping at the bit.
Practicing that opening statement in my bat in the shower for months.
Wow, to have been the fly on the wall in that shower. No, I'm just kidding. I would not, not want to be that fly on the wall. But all right, so 3 verdicts in favor of the plaintiffs for over $2 billion, not million, $2 billion, right? Amazing. And just let me see, I'm gonna try to give the skinny on the background or whatever. If I can get my notes all straight here. All right, you're on the cover of Super Lawyers magazine. Law 360 named you a titan of the plaintiffs bar. Trial Lawyer magazine, Brent is one of the America's top 50 most influential trial lawyers, and finalists for the Attorney of the Year in California. And the last thing I hear is the Clarence Darrow Award by the Mass Tort Made Perfect group.
That's correct.
I'm sure I missed some highlights. But first of all, just for the audience's education, because I know I have a lot of young listeners, who is Clarence Darrow? Or who was Clarence?
He's an attorney who worked on some really important cases that inspired Mike Papantonio, and is sort of a legacy attorney for good work and using law to help people. And that's what Mike Papantonio named the award after. And I was honored to be brought out to Las Vegas and get an award on it. It was very cool. It was a very wonderful award. It felt like a lifetime achievement award. I just, feel like I'm a little young for that, but I'll take it.
No, and well deserved. And one of the other things that I liked about your resume during your tenure as a law student at Georgetown University, 750 community service hours. Congratulations. I mean, that's amazing. Most law students are so terrified they can't even, they don't even go to the bathroom half of the time. They don't want to waste a second, but good on you on that one. And so your law firm does mass torts, product liability, class action, all. You guys go after corporate malfeasance. My favorite thing to do is the end of 2021. And like I said, it's the holiday special. I am going to cut to the chase. We're going to get to the topic within 20 seconds. But I just want to say this. According to Siri, we have over 5 million deaths from COVID, pandemic, okay? We're hoping it becomes an endemic. I mean, is that really what we're hoping for? We got climate change. Where Brent is, California, they have fires year round now. Now, all of a sudden, I'm reading that the water is contaminated with these forever chemicals. And I'm beside myself. But on top of it all, there's now reports that there is toxic metals, arsenic, in your Gerber's baby food, Campbell's soup. Did I get that? That's what we're talking about today. Brent, what is going on?
Well, it's really interesting. About a year ago, the Congress published a report, and they had been investigating this for years, about the contamination of various heavy metals. We're talking about arsenic, mercury, and lead being found in baby food. We're talking about the food that you feed, 3-month-old to 2, 3-year-old, even older, having these really high levels of metal, and that in fact these companies had known about it for years, and that this is a problem that they've been sort of testing and measuring and essentially doing nothing about, not warning anybody, because baby foods were never regulated for heavy metals. And so Congress, pissed off that the FDA was doing nothing to fix this, published a report exposing their investigation because they had subpoena power. They published documents raising this issue. And then shortly thereafter, about a month ago, they issued a second report on some additional heavy metals that they're finding in other baby foods. So my associate Pedram Esfandiari, who I work with, he saw the report. He was angry. We did some research and we found out what was causing all this, and we said this is exactly in our wheelhouse. And so we've been pursuing the litigation pretty aggressively. We were pretty far along, actually, considering that we just filed our first case in May.
All right, so how do you have any idea how toxic metals are in food at all? I mean, are they?
Sure. So we're surrounded by toxic metals, right? I mean, it's a product of the post-industrial world we live in. There's lots of metals that are in our environment. However, most of it doesn't get into our body. Most of it doesn't get metabolized, right? And so when we talk about heavy metals, we're talking about these chemicals. I mean, they're metals that pass the blood-brain barrier and are able to lodge themselves and interfere with the way our neurons metabolize energy and all that sort of thing, leading to cell death. So if you consume a lot of heavy metals, you'll actually sustain brain damage. Now, our bodies have all these mechanisms built in to protect against that, particularly adults. But babies don't have those mechanisms. They're developing. And what we're seeing is that when children at that young age are exposed to very high levels, and when I say very high levels, I mean exceptionally high levels, like 10 parts per million is the legal limit for drinking water, for mercury, for example. And in the baby foods, we're seeing, 1,000 parts per billion. We're talking about truly staggering levels of heavy metals. And, it causes brain damage. And the way it gets in there is actually sort of interesting. It's because it's where they source their food from. They're sourcing them from farms that have a long history of using fertilizers and pesticides. And then they're adding in tap water in areas that already have heavy metal contamination. So when you combine those two sources of heavy metals and you distill them into the baby food that is then sold to mothers and fathers, it's just shocking how much is in there. And there's no regulation on it. I mean, there's literally zero. And this has been happening for years.
So, pesticides and all that makes sense and whatever, but from what I'm reading myself, I see that some of the food that's been found to have these toxic metals in is organic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is not limited to non-organic food. We're talking about stuff that consumers and parents believe to be truly safe and healthy for their child, being significantly more poisonous than the foods that we as adults eat. And we as adults have more protections against those metals. And these babies with their brains in development mode are truly vulnerable. And that's why what we're pursuing, I should have mentioned this earlier, we're pursuing cases involving autism, severe autism, because there's a mountain of science showing that when you expose a baby, to heavy metals, it causes brain damage. And one of the manifestations of that brain damage, low IQ, all those types of things, but one of them is autism. And so that's the focus of our litigation right now.
So for parents out there, your kids have autism. What are the other types of, ADHD? We have the whole full spectrum of that type of manifestation.
Yeah, I mean, you would expect to see. So these heavy metals are neuropoisons. Okay, I mean, they're well known. Arsenic is rat poison. Okay, and when you expose the brain to it, it causes damage, and that manifests in different ways. Right, you can have people who are just less intelligent, people who have communication problems, and there's a whole spectrum of stuff that it could cause. Most of it is never diagnosed. Your kid's just not as bright as the other ones, or they have attention problems, right? But when it's so acute that it gets diagnosed, and we see it diagnosed in the context of ASD or autism spectrum disorder, we see it diagnosed in ADHD, hyperactivity disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, we see it manifest in these actual diagnoses, and those are the most acute ones, and those are obviously the ones that we are pursuing from a litigation perspective. But the simple fact is, there's probably millions of kids who have been harmed intellectually, developmentally, in ways that we can't even identify, that we won't even know, because their parents unknowingly poisoned their children with heavy metals because these manufacturers didn't tell them. I mean, frankly, they shouldn't be selling it at all. But that they also, the fact that they knew about it and didn't say anything is truly just gross. And it's something that we are chomping at the bit to get in front of a jury as soon as we can.
It smells criminal, and we all know that nothing like that is there. There will be no criminal actions taken. Although this is about as grotesque as you could come up with, in terms of corporations making money at our expense, at our kids' expense. So I know you guys take cases, and there's no short. You guys don't take any you don't take any shortcuts at all. So I know you hire the best doctors, toxicologists, all that, to make sure that you're right with what you're saying. And let me ask you this: if you're a concerned parent, your kid has autism, maybe you haven't been reading the papers or haven't found out about this, and you're thinking, wow, what should I do? Just from what you know, is there any treatment? So let's say a kid has been sucking down Gerber's left and right. That's the only food the child will eat, or Campbell's soup or whatever. And they've got this severe autism. Do you know of any treatment plan?
It's tough. I mean, most neurologists will tell you that when you have a kid who has autism or severe autism, right, the damage is done. Brains don't heal themselves. Neurons don't heal themselves in the way that other tissues do. So it's a tough thing to do. That said, I've talked to several neurologists who have told me that one of the treatments that they've seen a lot of success with, it doesn't get rid of it, but it helps reduce the symptoms of autism, is to actually chelate the metals, right? So they run them through a process where they take certain mixtures of vitamins and compounds that actually latch onto the metals and pull them out of your body, right? And then if you remove those metals, it will actually improve symptomatically a lot of the things. You can't fix brain damage, right? That's why it's called brain damage. But you can reduce future brain damage. And if you catch someone who's young enough and able to kind of get that stuff out of their system early, you have a better prospect of them developing out of it, making the neural connections in the brain that allow them to live a more normal life. You know what I mean? You'll never be the same, but there's ways to do it. That all said, I'm not a doctor, though I play one on television a lot. So people talk to your doctors, obviously, but this is something that you can ask them about and see if there's a way to do a chelating process. And I've heard some parents have a lot of success with that.
Yeah, I actually have high cholesterol myself, and I thought it was chelation for many years. I was tempted to do it, and I didn't do it. I just I dropped into the statin world and crossed my fingers and started to eat a lot of broccoli and probably other food that has arsenic in it also. All right, but is it all baby food, or let's talk about which foods we know now, and have they really looked at everything?
No, really, they haven't looked at everything, but they did look at 7 defendants who we've focused our litigation on, and I don't have all of them, their names handy. I could pull it up if you'd like, but some of the big ones, Gerber, Heinz Celestial, Plum, Walmart actually made a baby food for a long time. So there are some fairly massive defendants here who are involved in this litigation, and what we're seeing is there are some baby foods. And this is the crazy thing, that don't have this problem, right? There's even some of their products that don't have this problem, right? Because those products don't source from these farms and use this water and all this stuff that's causing the accumulation of heavy metals. I mean, there's this really interesting email, Greg, that the congressional report published, right? And it's literally a conversation, I believe it was with Plum. And the Plum says, hey, listen, we have really high levels of arsenic in this product. And the FDA is like, yeah, you need to do something about it. And they're like, yeah, we've identified that it's coming from this vitamin premix that we've been adding. It's not even something that's needed. It's just a little additional nutrient supplement they add to it. And the arsenic's coming from that premix. And the FDA is like, okay, so what do you do about it? They're like, we have to think about whether or not we want to recall the product or not. They then proceeded to continue selling that product with that premix for the next 3 years. I mean, and then finally they just recently recalled it when the second congressional report came out, and after we filed our lawsuits. So I mean, I'll tell you, it's inexcusable, right? It's like, how would you knowingly sell baby food with literally rat poison in it? It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that they continue to do it after they knew about it shows an absolute reckless disregard, and it's something that I can't wait to nail them in front of a jury. I mean, I'm chomping at the bit to try this case, and if all things go right, I think we'll be in trial this year.
All right, so how do we know which farms this is, you know, that when you talk about the source, have we identified the
Unfortunately, we haven't got the discovery on that yet. Right now we're in the process of convincing the judge and the court that we have science that supports the link between heavy metals and autism. We have a 5-day Sargon trial with, you know, we're presenting 4 different witnesses for testimony at the end of January in court in Los Angeles, in state court, in front of a really smart, complex judge there. And she's said, once we do that, discovery is wide open. And she's also said that because in California, if you're under the age of 14, you're entitled to a trial within 4 months as soon as you ask for it. There's no discretion. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And you know, we have a kid. We have a guy, a young boy who's, you know, not close to 14, and he's entitled to a trial. And so as soon as we get through that Sargon hearing, which we will at the end of January, we are going to move for preference and push the case to trial next year. So we are chomping at the bit, and we have some of the most amazing scientists that are working on this. I mean, I know they're amazing because they keep getting called by the defendants to be their experts. Right? They're like, sorry, we're already working on the other side.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. Pretty cool stuff.
All right, so explain what the Sargon procedure is.
Sure. So in court, in federal court, we call it Daubert or Daubert if you're going to act all French. And basically it's the process of, you know, the court making sure that what the science that you want to present to the jury isn't junk science, that it's not just like crazy, you know, whack job nonsense, right? And if you can show that it's based on legitimate, good, peer-reviewed work, then you're allowed to proceed forward to a trial where you can show that to a jury and make your arguments like I'm doing here, right? It's the same thing in California. California has a different standard. It's actually a lower standard than the Daubert or proceeding in federal court. But it's the same concept. And there, the judges were going to present her with testimony from some experts about, you know, based on a bunch of peer-reviewed literature. And I'll tell you, man, you know, in Roundup, we probably had 5 or 6 major studies that, you know, we were in dispute. One of them was bad, 4 of them were good, and it was, you know, a very limited data set of information. Here, we have hundreds of studies. I mean, I just was working with an expert yesterday and just going through the one after the other. I mean, this has been studied time and time again. The CDC says it, that heavy metals can cause autism. I mean, this isn't even a controversial thing. That they think they're going to survive the junk science standard is preposterous. We're clearly going to overcome it. I mean, I've never seen science as strong in my life supporting the connection. So the question then just becomes, you know, as we proceed to trial, what next, you know?
All right, so there's been some of these foods that have been recalled, but some haven't.
That's right. I mean, a lot of them have been recalled. The FDA actually started a program called Closer to Zero, which is basically they finally decided to start regulating the presence of heavy metals in baby foods for the first time, and so they're actually putting together regulations and limits, and that should, moving forward, fix the problem. It really should get it out of the baby foods because there's really no reason for it to be there. That said, right now, if you're a mother who wants to feed their kid baby food, don't do it. I would not use baby food. I would make it yourself. Talk to your doctor about alternatives because there's really no reason to be poisoning your child right now, and we know there's a real problem.
Yeah, well, I would say at any time there's no reason.
Exactly. Fair enough.
But
we shouldn't poison our children. Hard stop.
I know it's a, you know, I'm like, yeah, should we? I don't know. No, absolutely not. All these children should get a fair shot at, you know, life and all that. So how do you know that these food companies have known about this for years? That these foods have had toxic metals?
Because they test it. Because they look at the product, they measure it, and they go, oh, look at all this lead, look at all this mercury, and then they go, oh, but there's no FDA regulation, so we can just sell it. I mean, that's literally what we're talking about here. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And sure, there's FDA regulations on bottled water that say you can't have more than 10 parts per billion of mercury in it. And although we have, 1,000 parts per billion in this food, it's fine. There's no regulation until the FDA says we can't do it. We're going to do it. Yeah, that's their defense.
So, but we didn't know, we, the general public, did not know that these food companies knew until now.
Exactly. That's what the congressional report shed light on. That was the bombshell. And that's why, when regulators fail, trial lawyers fill the gap. And that's what we're doing. We're coming in to say, this is not right. We're here to fix it. We're here to help fix this problem,
And society just has not accepted that. And also the press, I think, really deserves the press gets attacked all the time, but it's the press that's, many times, uncovering these stories or whatever. And, then they get vilified, and, people, journalists that are covering the environment, they get killed, they get put in jail. It's just unbelievable. But I do know a little segue in connection with the effort to let the public know just, how the regulators are failing and the journalists and the lawyers are stepping up to the plate and actually serving those roles in effect. I heard, and you can confirm this, that Oliver Stone is doing a movie on Roundup. Did I hear that right?
Oh boy, I definitely can't talk about that.
You can't talk about that. All right, so
I will say this is public information.
Yeah.
He was at my closing argument during the $2 billion verdict. He was in the audience listening to the closing. So he obviously is interested in this issue. I don't know if he's going to make the movie. I've heard a lot of different people talking about making movies. I know whatever movie gets made is going to piss off somebody. And so I don't want to have any of my fingers on it. So I have no comment or control or knowledge of any of that stuff.
Okay, and I know you have no control. You don't know what's going on. But if they ask you, who do you want to play the role of you? I guess I can't because I really don't have your hair. And
I'll tell you this: if they're gonna make a movie, I would really love. He looks nothing like me. He's way better looking. He's way taller. He's much more fit.
Yeah.
But John Krasinski, I think he would be awesome. I think he's got the right mindset. He's a director. He's a filmmaker. I think he would do a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Putting this story together and showing it, because I've seen some of the stuff he's done recently. He's a cool guy. The Good News Network stuff was so cool. So I think I'd like to have him do it. That would make me proud if he did it.
Yeah.
Again, no control over that stuff.
No control. He is a little taller, and I don't.
A little taller.
I can't. I'm trying to one day add up the amount of hours I spent watching The Office. Just to see how much this one took out of my lifetime or whatever. But the calculator it was a little disturbing how much time. But good. I like that call. All right. And I love Oliver Stone. I don't like him as much as I like Ken Burns. But pretty much anything Oliver does, I watch. All right, let's get back to the topic at hand. All right. So you guys are all right. So let's go back to Congress gets involved. How did they get involved? Was there a whistleblower? How did they figure out what the hell was going on?
So that's a good point. There was a consumer group that had been doing its own testing of food. Now, they had been testing food, primarily looking for pesticides and other compounds in various foods. One of them was baby foods. And they actually had this really cool program where parents could mail it in and they would actually test it and then tell you what the results were. And then they used all that data to put together a report. One of the things they found was that there was these really high levels of heavy metals that were almost inexplainable, right? And they were not looking for it, and they ran into these incredibly high levels of arsenic, mercury, lead, and cadmium, actually, and others. And so they published a report. Obviously, it was a consumer advocacy group. It wasn't a peer-reviewed article, but someone in a congressional office saw it and said, "We need to look into this." And then I don't know who the congressman was. One day, whoever it is, I will shake their hand, but they ended up in this issuing investigation, and that led years later to what we saw today. And one of the things that Congress has the power to do, kind of like we do as lawyers, is to collect documents, is subpoena documents and look at things. And they did that. Now, what we are going to do in this litigation will be that times 1,000, right? We were a lot more robust, and we're obviously going to press this to the ends of the earth, but they did collect documents, and they found their own internal testing. And it was pretty amazing because a lot of these manufacturers actually, were testing, and they disclosed the results of those tests to Congress. They had to; they were under subpoena power. And probably the most fascinating fact was that in 2019, a handful of these manufacturers actually went to the FDA and said, "Hey, here's a PowerPoint. We have this problem. We have all these heavy metals in these baby foods. We have to solve this." And then they didn't do anything. And so it's sort of like, it is what it is. So
Yeah. So, I mean, being it is what it is, have these food companies, aside from the ones that have done their own little recalls, have any of them said, you know what, we're wrong, we accept responsibility, we acknowledge that this problem exists, anything like that? Has any of that happened?
of course not. I mean, these companies, not yet. I actually think one or two of them might own it, because the future of their business is parents need to trust them to give them nutritious food for their children. But some of the bigger ones, the Walmarts, the Heinz Celestials, they baby food is a small part of their larger business, and so they it ain't that big of a deal to them, and they'll never admit fault. I mean, even to this day, Monsanto still doesn't admit fault. They paid a lot of freaking money, but they didn't admit any fault, and that's just unfortunately how it works. And it's a civil system, right? The only thing I can do for my clients is get them money. I can't really do anything else besides that. But money does go a long way. It does say a lot of things, and it makes a big difference moving forward. Hopefully, that these companies calculate it into their business decisions.
Yeah, I think until there's criminal prosecution for all this stuff, it's just going to continue. They fight, they end up paying out, and then they look at their bottom line and they said, all right, we still made a profit on the whole product.
Greg, it infuriates me. Like I think about I'm doing this case right now, totally different case. I'm doing involving a pharmaceutical product against this Japanese manufacturer. Takeda involves a drug called Actos, which was used to treat bladder cancer. They netted $23 billion. Okay. That's after cost, expense. That's profit.
Yeah.
Okay. They paid $2 billion to the handful of people who came forward to say, hey, your product gave me bladder cancer. And they knew about it the whole time. They didn't warn. It caused bladder cancer. Basically, no one uses it now because it's all been exposed, whatever. But they made $23 billion and paid $2. Why would they ever warn in the future? Why would they ever care about not exposing people to a carcinogen? They made out like bandits, right? And that's a real failure of our civil justice system, that there really isn't any accountability. I actually have a lawsuit that's meant to fix that. We'll see where it goes. It's I'm creating law there, but it's just really a problem. And until companies actually have to pay for disgorge their profits, nothing's going to change. The Sackler family, right? They're going to walk away with billions still, even though they have put an epidemic of addiction in the opioid crisis. I mean, just one example after another. There's a problem with our system. I'm sorry, I'm getting off my soapbox.
Yeah, no, go. Hey, this is your opportunity. All right, you got the mic here. No, the Sackler family, perfect example. I mean, I had Ryan Hampton, who was involved in that litigation. I had him on a couple times. So it just, I read his book, and it's just so disgusting. I mean, it really is. They're sociopaths. I know that's Mike Papantonio's favorite. I think every 5 words he says is sociopath. But it's true. I mean, and they go back to their boardrooms, and I guess the shareholders are good with it. They just want the stock to go up, and whatever the news hits, the stock goes down. They settle, the stock goes up, and it's just disgusting, the whole thing. All right, but I want to close on this. A lot of my podcasts talk about class actions, mass torts, MDL. Where is this going to go in the class action, mass tort, MDL kind of place, or we go into state court, or you don't want to tell me?
No, I'll tell you what's happened. So, after the congressional report came out, a bunch of class actions, economic injury class actions were filed. And about 2 personal injury cases were filed. The personal injury ones were filed by my firm. And then they actually sought to create an MDL. So they actually moved for the panel to create one. We actually opposed the creation of one and or the inclusion of the PI cases. We didn't want to be part of a coordinated proceeding. And if we did, we wanted to be distinct from the class action, because autism and neurodevelopmental injury is such a different world than I want my money back, right? They're related, but they're different types of injuries. Anyway, the JPML agreed with us. They didn't create an MDL. They denied it. So there's a bunch of class actions occurring all over the country. They've been kind of voluntarily coordinated those class actions in different courts. On the PI front, we are the only firm doing it. We have dismissed all the federal cases. We have one state court action in Los Angeles State Court in front of a great judge and in front of a great jury pool. And we're going to try that case. The rest of the cases, we have hundreds of them, we're going to hold off on filing them because there's no statute of limitations issues because they're all under 18 and your statute doesn't begin to run until you turn age of majority in almost every state. So we don't want to file them. We don't want to create a JCCP or an MDL or thing. We want to just use this case that we have filed, a great case, get a big verdict, and then settle everyone else's that way. Now, if other people get more involved, then a lot of lawyers are reaching out to me. But it's interesting. A lot of lawyers reach out to us and just say, "Hey, take our cases," right? They just want us to do it because they know we're gonna kill them. But if other people get involved and I want to actively litigate, we'll obviously work with them and we can create a coordinated proceeding if it goes down that road. But for now, we'd like to avoid that because we have this great situation. There's no rush. Everyone wins if we get a big verdict, which we will. So I think that that's really the plan right now. And we've been very upfront with the defendants, with the courts, with everybody about our plan. So it's nothing secret. We'd like to keep this case going, and that's what we're going to do. So far, everyone in the plaintiff's bars, work cooperatively with us, and the defendants are, crying havoc and screaming about how we're manipulating the judicial system because we're not suing them everywhere. They're literally complaining that we're not suing them everywhere.
I guess they're running out of novel things to say, so they're getting to.
They want to stop. They want to stop this case from moving ahead. They've done everything in their power to delay. And every time I just call their bluff. I say, "Fine, you want early Sargon? Let's do it next month." "Well, we can't do it next month. Oh, we have to do 2 months." "Fine, we'll do it in 2 months, but stick to this date." I'm just hammering them one step at a time. And the noose is closing, and it's going to result in a trial where they are going to get staggering damages against them. I mean, staggering. And my client is going to have the rest of his life to have the money he needs to pay for his medical treatment and attention, because severe autism is a lifelong, frighteningly expensive. All the help and stuff you need, he'll be taken care of, and then they're going to have 500,000-600,000, whatever amount of cases behind him, and I will try every single goddamn one of them. So, I'm excited about the case, if you couldn't tell.
Listen, when I wake up in the morning, I file a new case and I see who my opposition is. I just thank God it's not Brent Wisner. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's too much. He actually wants to try his cases. Look at the settlement. All right, no. You be who you are. All right.
Thanks, man.
Because the world needs more people like you. And I appreciate you coming on to my show today. So I want to just clarify a couple call to actions, clarifications. Although only one of your cases is in court right now, and that's all you're really pursuing in terms of court, you are accepting cases. So parents, your child has autism or is on the spectrum, and you're like, wow, I got a lifetime of medical treatment, that I'm gonna have to deal with. It's gonna cost me a fortune. Should they call you?
Yeah, they should definitely call my office. We have a very thoughtful team that goes through all the potential issues to make sure we vet our cases very carefully. But if you meet all the criteria, we want to represent you. We want to help you get your day in court. We want to get you a great result, whatever that ends up being. I mean, that's what we do. And I tell you, in Roundup, for example, we're going through the settlements. Checks are going out. Actually, there's a wall right here with the number of checks we're sending out each day to our clients. And I'm getting these emails from people just saying, "You've changed my life. Thank you so much." It's really why we do this.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is that's what we're doing here. So yes, reach out to us. We want to help. That's what we live off of that. So
okay. Well, there might be a gentleman by the name of Max Goldfarb. That would be my father. He's 90 years old. He practices full time still, and he was actually the one that told me about this problem like 4 or 5 months ago. He's like, "Are you paying attention? I hear you're doing the mass tort stuff. Do you even know what's going on?" And so I think he might have a client, so I'm going to tell him to call you up, all right?
Please, that'd be great. That'd be great.
So, and it would be, he'd get a kick out of you. And you might get a kick out of him too. He's full time. There's no doubt about that. All right, folks, that is the end of this episode of Cut to the Chase. Thank you, Brent, for coming on to our show and helping the public know what is going on. It's the holiday season. There's no cheer on this show this day, but maybe in the future. All right. Is there bad stuff going on? Yeah. Including toxic metals in your baby food. All right. Go figure. Gerber. I grew up on Gerber. You got to be kidding me that there's this stuff going on. Maybe that explains my, dysfunctional behavior. No, actually I'm perfect or whatever. But all right, folks, you know what to do. Subscribe, rate, review. You got to go to Apple Podcasts, go to Cut to the Chase, then you go all the way down. You hit the 5-star. You give me comments, questions. You can even give me criticism. I can handle it, all right? Because I'm here to give you the best show possible. So I want to hear what you have to say. Brent, have a good day. Go get them, all right?
Thanks, Greg. Have a
all
good
right.
day.